Ohio State survives the scare against Penn State? Can we say that? Ohio State beat Penn State 44-31, and we have to talk about it. But before we do that, please go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you guys are thinking down in the comments below. Do you think this Ohio State Buckeyes team can go be 15-0 and win the national championship this season? Because I think they look pretty good. Ohio State beats Penn State 44-31. And you have to believe that Sean Clifford lost this game for Penn State, as they were in prime position to go out there and just beat Ohio State. Most of the time throughout this game, they were exchanging leads up until the end of the game, where Ohio State was just able to pull it out. Ohio State was 4 of 12 on third downs. They only had 452 total yards, which, I mean, I say that and most people go, well, 452 yards is pretty good, yeah, but for Ohio State's defense or offense, it might be a step down. They had 8 penalties for 50 yards. They lost the time of possession by 30 seconds, so not that big of a deal. But, I mean, the third down efficiency, 4 of 12. I mean, when Penn State was 6 of 16, and Penn State kind of was able to do whatever they wanted throughout the passing game on Ohio State, they were in prime position. Penn State just turned the ball over 4 times. 3 of those were an interception, and you have to believe that was probably the difference maker in this game. C.J. Stroud had 354 yards, 26 of 33 for 1 touchdown, and Trayvon Henderson, 16 carries, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns, but Marvin Harrison Jr. had himself a day from C.J. Stroud. 10 receptions, 185 yards, and then you had Cade Stover. He was just, again, another boss for Ohio State. 6 receptions, 78 yards. Emeka Egbuka, 6 receptions, 53 yards, and then Julian Fleming, 2 receptions, 27 yards. This Ohio State receiving core is just phenomenal, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with over the next couple of years. They don't even have Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is their best wide receiver right now. He was out with a hamstring injury. C.J. Stroud fumbled the ball once, but JT Tuimailoa, man, what is there not to say about this guy? He was all over the place. He had 6 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions. One of those was a pick 6, 3 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble. A forced fumble, which I think, did he recover it? Doesn't matter. JT was all over the field today, and you have to believe that he's going to be probably a first-round pick at some point. Additionally, you had Tommy Eichenberg out there get 15 total tackles. 10 of those were just his own. I mean, this Ohio State defense, when you look up and down the board, they are immensely improved over last year. And it's all thanks to the defensive coordinator that they got from Oklahoma State, who was a top defense last year in Knowles. And yeah, he's just turning this Ohio State defense around. I'm a little disappointed in what we're seeing from Jack Sawyer. I was hoping he would be a little bit better with Knowles coming up there to help turn around that defense. But you have to give it to Penn State, guys. I mean, their running game was just not there today. Nicholas Singleton only had 45 yards. Katron Allen only had 76. But their passing game was on fire. Sean Clifford went 32 of 47 for 371 yards. And he had 3 touchdowns. Now, like I said, he did have those 3 blunders, 3 interceptions. And you have to think, if you take away that pick 6 and you take away one of the other interceptions, there's a chance that Penn State has a pretty good shot to win this game. Penn State's a pretty good team. They're a pretty good team. They got a wide receiver in Parker Washington who just looked impressive today with 11 receptions for 179 yards. But as impressive as Penn State looked, it all comes back to Ohio State and how good Ohio State looked, because Ohio State, their defense got better. That was the question that we had with Penn State, and Ohio State was their defense. I think one of the big things that we have to look at here is Penn State is now 1-10 versus top 5 opponents under James Franklin. So, yeah, James Franklin has really good seasons at Penn State, and he goes to Rose Bowls, but when it comes to big-time opponents and being able to win those games, James Franklin ain't it. And I'm not saying Penn State needs to move off their head coach. It's not what I'm saying, because if you're Penn State and you move off James Franklin, who are you going to go out there and get? right? I don't think there's really anybody out there that's better for you to go get. But when you look at what is happening in the recruiting game, Ohio State is always up there, right? And you're going to have to continue to play Ohio State. Michigan's getting better. And, I mean, yes, outside of those teams, like the Big Ten's pretty easy. But, I mean, shoot, you got Minnesota has been good for a while. You have Illinois that's good this year with Chase Brown at their running back position. I mean, if you're James Franklin, you have to get a signature win at some point. You have to be able to get a signature win at some point. And Ryan Day over at Ohio State, he just continues to get those wins, and he continues to stack these recruiting classes together. And you would expect Ohio State to be able to put together a national championship roster if it's not this year, but at least in the next couple of years. And if you're Penn State, you've got to be able to go compete with that. You've got to be able to go beat Ohio State. And so far, you haven't been able to do it. You've done it one time. One time. Other than that, you're unsuccessful here. And yeah, I saw that stat, and it's pretty disappointing. It's pretty disappointing for James Franklin and the Penn State team. Penn State definitely has one of the better atmospheres in college football, and they get talent all the time, especially at the running back. You got Singleton this year, who a lot of people compare to Saquon Barkley. It's just disappointing. I definitely think this Penn State team could have been a playoff team at some point. Just James Franklin hasn't been able to get the job done there. And you know what? Again, today, they had a really good shot to knock off Ohio State. Just those 3 interceptions by Sean Clifford and the other fumble, those hurt. You cannot give up 4 total turnovers and expect to win a game. You just can't. You got to be able to go in there, and you got to be able to clean those up. For Penn State, what does it look like for them for the rest of the season? And I think the question comes back around to, can James Franklin beat some of those marquee teams? Can he go out there and win those games where Penn State can give themselves a shot to go win them? Right now, you're sitting at 6-2. You lost to Michigan, you lost to Ohio State, the 2 best teams in the conference. You've got Indiana, Maryland, Rutgers, and Michigan State. If I'm Penn State, you can go out there and you can win out now. You can end the season 10-2. I think that's what they have to do at this point. They have to be able to win out. They have to be able to go beat those teams. Rutgers has got a top-tier defense, so you're going to have to play with that. Michigan State's got another one. So go out there, play well, finish it up, and then we'll see where you guys end next season. As for Ohio State, I guess the big question is, can they get past Michigan at the end of the season? They have They're at Northwestern next week. Then they go home to play Indiana. Then you're at Maryland, and then you play Michigan at home. So again, question is, can Ohio State get past Michigan? If they can get past Michigan this year, you would expect Ohio State to be able to roll into the playoffs as the number 1 team. I have them as my number 1 team in the country right now. I just think they're that good. I have Michigan at number 3. So the Big Ten's producing 2 of probably the best teams in college football right now in Michigan and Ohio State. But go ahead and drop it down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think Ohio State can make the college football? Well, I say make the. I mean, they're going to make it anyways. But do you think Ohio State is going to make the college football playoffs and win the national championship as a 15-0 champion?